Tables can be great for organizing and presenting information in a document. If you find there is not enough white space between the contents of the table and the cell borders, you can appreciate the steps presented in this quick tip. Notice that on the screen I have a rather simple table. I may want to increase the space between the cell borders and the text within the cells. There are two ways to do this, depending on whether I want to increase spacing for all cells in the table or just for selected cells. Let's take a look first at how to do it for the entire table. I start by placing the insertion point within the table. And then I jump over to the Table Layout tab of the ribbon, and I'm going to choose Properties over here at the very left-hand side. That displays the Table Properties dialog box. Now I'm going to click on the Options button right down here. Now you can see the Table Options dialog box. It's these four controls, top, bottom, left, and right, that allow me to specify the amount of space to leave between the side of the cell and the contents of the cell. These margins are specified in inches, and you can make the settings quite small if you desire. In fact, you can see that there's a very small setting on both left and right. That's put there by default by Word. Now, for instance, if I wanted this particular table to have a top and bottom margin within the cells, all I would have to do is type in what I want that margin to be. I'm going to make it 0.15 inches. And then when I click on OK and click on OK again, you can see that it's spaced out those margins within the table between the edges of the cell and the text within the cell. Now, you should also note that depending on your version of Word, you can click the Cell Margins tool right over here in the Alignment group on the Table Layout tab of the ribbon, and it'll take you directly to the Table Options dialog box that we worked with just a bit ago. If you want to affect just some cells within the table, well, then you can start out by selecting the cells that you want to affect. In this case, I'm going to select this one right here. Note, however, that if you just want to affect a single cell, you can simply place the insertion point within the cell. Now, I'm going to go ahead and display the Table Properties dialog box once again, and I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the Cell tab within the dialog box. Here I'm going to go ahead and click on the Options button, and this displays the Cell Options dialog box. Remember, we looked at the Table Options dialog box a little while ago, but we know that this affects just the cells that are selected because it's called the Cell Options dialog box. This setting, the same as the whole table, is critical here. Notice that it's selected by default, which means that the selected cells will behave just like the rest of the cells in the table. Since I want these cells to be different, though, then I need to clear this, and that makes the controls underneath it available to me. Now I can make changes to the top, bottom, left, and right settings as desired. For instance, I may want this to be a little bit higher here just for this particular cell. I'm going to make it 0.25 inches, which is quite large. I'll make it 0.25 inches there. And now when I click on OK and I close the Table Properties dialog box, notice that it has affected the cell that I had selected. You may have also noticed that it affected the cells left and right of this as well. That's because I have adjusted the top and the bottom margins within this cell, and you can't just have it affect just the one cell within that row. It affects the entire row as well. Well, I hope that you found this quick tip helpful. If you did, you might consider signing up for my Word Tips newsletter. Every weekly issue is free, and it includes great tips that you can put to work right away. Information is in the notes just below this video. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me today.